afternoon. Welcome to a special edition of Truth to Power. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and I'm also joined by my esteemed colleague who also co-hosts the show with me, Miss Letitia Sharp.
Hello, hello.
And we have the pleasure today to have the esteemed pleasure. Let me make sure I put all the adjectives in front of that. We have the plum-pleasing pleasure to have the Attorney General from the great state of Nevada, Mr. Aaron Ford. Attorney General Ford, thank you.
I am honored to be
here
here
with us today.
Thank you so much. So honored to be here.
Hello, hello.
Well, we are having an awesome time talking to various different people about the debate. And we've talked about the debate with so many different people. But let me just do a quick little housekeeping real quick. A lot of people don't know, what does the Attorney General do for the state of Nevada?
Yeah, great question. First off, Darwin, and thank you, Madam Co-host, for having me here. It is great to be here. You don't know this, but my career started here. Maybe you did know it. I don't know, but my career.
Well, I did a little bit of research.
Okay. Of course you did.
Especially when I found out that you were Kappa Alpha Psi. So.
Well, as pretty as I am, you had to know I was a nuke, right? I mean, let's just be clear about that. Let's just be clear.
all right, Charles.
Okay. Let's. All right. I'm here to talk about something different, right?
Okay.
Right.
We're gonna be real humble in the studio today. So go ahead.
I will work my hardest to accommodate that. But yeah, I started my legal career here as a judicial law clerk to the Honorable Denise Page Hood. So I view this as a coming home of sorts. Used to live downtown at what used to be called the Millender Center, which now I think it's called Renaissance or something. I just saw it today for the first time in a long time, and so honored to be back here. I remember going to Sweetwater Tavern for those wings, man. They some bad wings right there, man. So
Sweetwater.
Yeah, really enjoyed that.
Well, I give you a little history, like the Millender Center. That was Beatrice Millender, or Penny Millender, as we call it. She was a judge as well until she retired. But that's the thing, is that she, that's who her father was named after.
I see.
Was the Millender Center.
I see.
So
I see.
Just give you a quick little history. But go ahead.
Yeah.
We're talking about the wings.
Yeah. Well, the reason why, that's right. The reason why I mentioned that, though, is because my legal career began here in Detroit, and it has evolved into me being the Attorney General for the state of Nevada. So I owe a lot of homage to this city, and I'm glad to be back here. And it leads to the answer to your question of what the AG does. Essentially, in a phrase, we are the people's lawyer. Okay. We represent the people of our respective states. You have a good one here in Dana Nessel. She's a good colleague of mine. We work together on so many things, whether it's taking on opioid companies that have caused this opioid epidemic that we see experienced across the entirety of our nation, taking on social media companies for the impact that we think that their addictive product has on our youth, for example, or just taking on unscrupulous businesses who are taking advantage of our elderly or our youth or veterans, or you name it. We are the people's lawyer. We also have some of us have some level of criminal jurisdiction. Not all of us do, but I have a limited amount of criminal jurisdiction that if a state entity, state individual individual works for the state is involved in crimes, then I can prosecute that type of thing. But all in all, I am the people's lawyer. I represent the people of the state of Nevada, obviously in addition to the governor and other entities in the state. But I tout myself as an individual who's going to look out for the entirety of the Nevada family in any instance that they may need assistance.
Okay. Letitia, I'll let you ask the first question.
My first question is, I have a thing for attorney generals now that we have Ms. Kamala Harris.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Our up in the White House, hopefully, do our right. But in terms of, you say you're the people's lawyer. How does the people connect with? How do you feel like? What's your best way to represent the people when sometimes it's the people that could be the problem?
Well, look, it's a great question, and I think two things can be true at the exact same time. I met Kamala Harris maybe 8 years ago, so 7-8 years ago, when I first ran for this office of Attorney General. She, in fact, was the first national candidate, national figure to endorse my campaign for a Nevada Attorney General. I sat with her and I talked about, as I was contemplating this run, what it meant to be an Attorney General, because she was then a U.S. Senator who had been Attorney General for California. And she said, I see my job as writing the title of my office. And what she meant by that was that in California, the office is called the California Department of Justice. And she said, and my job is justice. Right. She didn't know this then, but immediately I said that I was going to take that We don't call ourselves the Office of the Department of Justice in Nevada. We just call it the Attorney General's Office. But on day 2 on the job, I told my colleagues that that's our job.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is justice. And that's how you represent the people, through this vision of justice, where you understand that sometimes justice does mean you have to arrest and incarcerate people who are doing bad things. But it also means that you have to, if you make a mistake, you have to exonerate and compensate.
Exactly.
I sound like my frat brother Johnny Cochran a little bit when I said that, right?
No,
But
that's right.
But that is the balance.
Right.
Understanding that protecting the people doesn't mean that we ignore bad things that are happening in our society.
Exactly.
I am the people's lawyer, and so there's a balance. But there's also a balance that I think Kamala Harris has always demonstrated, and that is, just because you incarcerate doesn't mean that person is non-human.
Exactly.
It's not going to be for it. Most people who are incarcerated, they will return to our society.
Yes.
And she instituted programs early on in her administration, both as district attorney in the San Francisco area and in California, to reintegrate folks through rehabilitation programming. And I think that's important because it gets lost in the discussion, the misinformation about her record as a prosecutor, when the truth of the matter is she was at the forefront of criminal justice reform as we talk about it today. So that's how you serve as the people's lawyer, recognizing that no one that we know wants to live in an unsafe neighborhood.
Exactly.
I don't know anybody who wants to live in an unsafe neighborhood.
Right.
And so when you call 911, you expect the bad people to be taken care of, right? And then you expect them to also be taken care of.
Right.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And then reintegrated. And so that's how you do both.
And it's like a holistic approach.
Absolutely.
You would say justice
Absolutely.
is about the holistic approach. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is that we just recently had the debate, as many people knew. What was your thoughts in terms of say about the debate? How do you think that she performed, or how do you think that she educated the public about why she should get the support from, especially a lot of the undecided people? There were a lot of people, we're Divine Nine, so we know about the Chucks and Pearls and with that. But how do you think that she did when it comes down to swaying that needle of those that were undecided, that were uncommitted, to try and go and support her in this upcoming election?
Well, there are a few things I want to say in response to that. The first of which is that we're seeing in the immediate aftermath of the debate that those undecideds, as you have labeled them, are making their minds up based on that debate. They're seeing the contrast between a professional who has only had one client in her life, the people. When I say I'm the people's lawyer, she's only had one client in her life, and it's the people. When she ran for president the first time, her motto was Kamala Harris for the people, right? So when you see someone who's about the people versus someone who is all about themselves, which is what we saw in contrast on the debate stage, you see people starting to make the right decision. When you see someone who talks about a vision of moving our country forward, a new movement going forward, as opposed to someone who wants to take us backwards, then you start to see people who were undecided making their minds up that Kamala Harris is the right person. And you see what happens when you have two comparing visions. One vision, again, that moves forward, and another vision, it really doesn't exist. And you know what happens when people don't have a vision? They do silly things like name calling, right? I come from a state, by the way, where pronunciation matters. I just want y'all to know, because you should understand. If you come to my state and you say Nevada, you're going to get upcharged. I'm just saying. You're going to get upcharged because
what's the proper way?
Because we're not Nevada, we are Nevada. Right? Okay. And my name is not Aaron, it's Aaron. And so if you come to Nevada and don't ask for Aaron, you might get upcharged, and don't call me for price gouging. I'm just saying. But the reason why I say that is because it's not Kamala, it's Kamala. And at the end of the day, when people don't have a true vision about themselves or for the country, or they're all about themselves, they disrespect and disregard other people. And that's what we see happening at the basis level with Mr. Trump on the other side of the aisle. And I think people are seeing through that, through his nonsensical answers at that debate that happened earlier this week, or I guess early last week.
Now, I'm going to let Letitia ask another question after. I just want to ask you, basically, when you looked at the nonsensical questions that he responded with his nonsensical answers. Right? What was the one that really caught you the most off guard? I know Letitia and myself, we probably got ours, but what was the one that really caught you the most off guard?
I can't even say if it's the most, because there was so many things. But one of the things that obviously that we all talk about is this nonsense of him saying they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. I mean, what are you talking about, dude? And so that was clearly nonsensical. But him saying that he wants to take away the Affordable Care Act. He wants to take away Obamacare. By the way, they won't call it Obamacare anymore because it's popular. right? They used to call it Obamacare when they thought it was a pejorative term.
Right.
So now they just call it the Affordable Care Act. But he wants to get rid of it, and he doesn't have anything to replace it with except a concept of a plan, right? That was utter nonsense as well. And it demonstrates that he has no vision for anyone except for him and his billionaire friends, as opposed to a Kamala Harris who is for the people, whose only client has ever been the people, and who wants to operate on an economy that, and what she calls an opportunity economy, that's providing everyone not just the ability, but the opportunity to be successful.
And you know, Donald Trump, I try not to say his name, not just because you don't want to give him any more public notice than we need to.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have someone of stature like Kamala Harris, and then you have her having to even debate someone of the stature of her opponent, it's almost a slap in her face. This woman is clearly overqualified on the side of him.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Which is just totally it's crazy. So yeah.
It raises an issue, right?
Right.
Because again, talking about different visions,
Mhm.
you have someone who recognizes and appreciates the humanity and dignity of everybody in this country,
Exactly.
living here in this country, and you have someone who does not. Right? You have someone who buys into this nonsense of using the phrase DEI as if it's a pejorative term.
Mhm.
And here's what I say to you. When it comes to Kamala Harris, DEI means definitely earned it. Right?
Yeah.
It means definitely earned it.
Definitely earned
She
it.
was prosecutor at the DA level. She was attorney general. She was U.S. senator. She is vice president. She has definitely earned it at the point to where she's going to be our next president of the United States, as opposed to the other guy who has definitely demonstrated that he did not earn it.
Exactly.
And is in fact should be disqualified from being in this position, especially when you compare Trump's Project 2025. He says he has nothing to do with it, but the truth is, he and his cronies have worked on a project that's going to take us backwards so many decades, and we have to be vigilant against pushing back on that.
Isn't it somewhat? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Was it somewhat sad that you think of her, and you think of all of you said his billionaire friends and all of the possible candidates, and yet they put this person up to be their candidate. That's probably the most unqualified of all of the friends that we know of, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to almost wonder, like, what would make a person support someone like that?
It's a fair question, and I have grappled in my mind with trying to understand how this man could still have such a following. And the truth of the matter is, it's the way I think the system is set up, at least on that partisan side of the aisle. You have sensible Republicans out there, let's be clear.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. I mentioned the DEI issue a minute ago. The attack on DEI, as we all know, kind of re-originated after the Supreme Court said that affirmative action in college education couldn't take place anymore. And so 13 Republican attorneys general sent a letter to Fortune 100 companies saying that they had to get rid of their DEI programs. Mind you, the decision had nothing to do with businesses. It had all to do with education. And so it was 13 of them out of the 25, though. Right. So the point I'm making is it's not all of them out there, but there are a sufficient number of folks who control the levers of power that have allowed a Donald Trump to resurge and to be the standard bearer for a party that does not deserve to be in leadership. And at the end of the day, I think we're going to see on November the 5th that the vast majority of Americans agree with my position on that.
Yes, we just got to get folks get out there and vote, because we can't take anything for granted.
I mean,
we really need to get them out there.
So speak to Attorney Ford. Speak to when it comes down to the black men and black women that may be kind of like vacillating whether or not they are, they aren't. What would you say, especially to the black men that may be saying, well, my vote doesn't matter, that, allegedly she incarcerated a whole lot of black men in the state of California, and they're thinking about sitting this one out. What would you say to them? What are some of the when you look at the long-term effects, especially when you talk about Project 2025 and how that could affect, especially black men in there? What would you say to those black men that may be kind of saying, I don't know whether I'm going to support Vice President Harris?
Look, there are a number of things that I would say in response, one of which I've already said, which is there's a lot of misinformation out there. And make no mistake about it, Republicans are keen on putting out misinformation, especially to segments of the population that they think are vulnerable to receiving it. and they want to splinter, and they want to peel off as much as they can in order to make it easier for Mr. Trump to win. So they will lie and say things like she incarcerated innocent folks on marijuana charges. That's inaccurate. It goes back to what you've asked me earlier, ma'am, which is how do you protect the people and protect the people, right? You do both at the same time, and she did that. But then I would also talk about the fact that there are specific things that have benefited the Black community. I had to take notes because there's so many. So let me just rattle off some for you, just for a second, sir. The Biden-Harris administration, the Harris portion of that, that we're talking about right now, they've created 2.6 million jobs for Black workers, right? We are experiencing the lowest Black unemployment rate on record right now, and that's because of the policies that Harris has supported. They've helped Black entrepreneurs start businesses at the fastest rate in the last 30 years. Right? They've capped the cost of insulin at $35 for seniors. That is, generally speaking, helping everybody, but we all know in our community, it helps us dramatically, right? She has helped to close the racial wealth gap by 60%. Pardon me, I was finna cheat her a little bit. 60%. They've invested more than $16 billion, so that's with a B, in HBCUs, and billions of dollars in student loan debt have been forgiven. That helps us as well, right? They've passed the most significant gun safety legislation in decades, which, as we all know, also supports our communities at a disproportionate level. And they have appointed the most ever Black judges to the federal bench. And that's just general stuff about what she's done nationally. Let me tell you what they've done here in Michigan. Specifically, because we're talking to Michiganders right now, right?
Exactly.
And the truth of the matter is the job creation and economic growth here has been unprecedented. The vice president has overseen the creation of nearly 450,000 jobs right here in Michigan, including 21,000 of them in manufacturing. That's opposite of what Mr. Trump was doing, right? And she's supporting economic growth and new business creation with over 500,000 new business applications. She is standing with UAW workers at the picket line, standing with workers, not the billionaires who don't want to pay the workers, right? They've taken on big pharma, as I've indicated, combating climate change. Right, the things that we can talk about here. For example, in Mr. Trump's administration, Michigan lost 280,000 jobs, including 31,000 manufacturing jobs, and you saw 6 factories close, and one of which was right here in Michigan. And so, at the end of the day, the contrasts are apparent, and the reasons we should be supporting a Kamala Harris over a Donald Trump, in my mind, are also readily apparent.
Yes.
Well, and that's something too that when you mention that, because I know we just recently had the congressman from South Carolina, Jim Clyburn, on the show with us. And one of the things that he was expressing too was about how Kamala Harris is supporting the unions. And that's one of the things that there was concern about with Trump, that Trump has tried to go and eliminate a lot of the unions because, like you said, some of her, some of the real rich friends that he has are not in support of their businesses being unionized.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that they're trying to get UAW, because when he was here recently, that's one thing that he did in terms of to make certain that he was not really in support of the unions compared to what Fame was looking at.
He's a scab.
And that's one of the things that people are saying.
That's the truth. This isn't misinformation. He's a scab. Right? He doesn't even pay his own bills. I mean, you don't have to like go back far in history to understand that this man doesn't really care about you. I mean, recall he tried to get 5 ultimately innocent people executed. Right? After they were exonerated. Right? Understand, 5 Black boys were wrongly incarcerated, and he runs full-page ads trying to have them executed. And then once they are exonerated, he still does not acknowledge the mistake he made in that regard, right? You don't have to go back too far to understand that he got sued because he refused to rent his apartments to Black people. So, young Black men, listen to me right now. You want to buy a home? You want to rent an apartment? You better not be from Donald Trump. His history already demonstrates that he is going to discriminate against you. He's going to cheat you. He's not going to give you what you deserve. And that's in a stark contrast to a woman who protects you and your families. And as Black men, we need to be all about protecting our families. And Kamala Harris is going to help us to do that.
And that's one of the things that's so important about looking at with the Harris administration, because of the families that are to be protected. And that's one thing when you look at, even with that birthing situation, when I was questioning about her ethnicity.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I was kind of like appalled when I was hearing that, because that's why are you bringing this up during this debate?
You know why he did it though? I said it a minute ago, because he's trying to target a minuscule amount of folks that's going to resonate with.
Mhm.
He thinks you're a fool. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I'm
Yep,
just going.
he
I'm going to
does.
be. Let me just get colloquial. He thinks you a fool. All he's got to do is say something that stirs your emotions, and you are going to stay home, or you're going to vote the other way, or you're going to, you're not going to vote for her. He thinks you are a fool. He's a character. He's a character and a caricature of a true leader. And at the end of the day, we have to be able to see through that nonsense, call him out on it at the same time, and ignore him at the same time. It's hard to do both, but that's what you have to do. You have to speak truth to the power, acknowledge that they're aligned to you, and then go and do the right thing at the end of the day. And the right thing here is to vote for Kamala Harris.
So, I'm going to love it when you mention that. What did you just say? Speaking truth to the power.
That's
so
right.
I
know. I know where I'm at. I know my heart.
Yeah. You knew how to win me over with that little stare right there.
I mean? You're an alpha and everything, but
Right. But how do we get folks? We know we need to vote for her. We know we got a fool on the other side of the table there. But how do we get folks to the polls? That's the problem. That they'll think that, oh, she got it made.
Yeah.
She's the best candidate. How do we get them out of that comfort zone and get them actually there?
A couple of things. One of which is to give examples of where votes have been extremely narrow and have caused an election. In my state, Donald Trump lost by 33,000 votes. Mm-hmm. That's not a lot of votes, y'all. Mm-hmm. Right here, I think he lost by 21,000 votes. Mm-hmm. That's not a lot of votes, y'all. Right? When I first won my election to be the first Black person to be elected statewide in Nevada's history as Attorney General, I barely won. I won by 0.47 percentage points. I tried to round up. My people says, no, it's 0.47. It ain't 0.5, it's 0.47. Yeah, right. 4,533 votes out of a million cast separated me from the alternative in this seat. And I wouldn't be here for a second term because I would not have won the first term. Now, I know a colleague of mine in the state Senate, I was Senate Majority Leader before I was Attorney General, who lost her Senate seat by 23 votes. We did a recount, and then she ended up losing by 24 votes. Wow. So understand, every vote counts. Now, and the last thing I'll say is Clyburn gave me a bit of history yesterday. You mentioned Clyburn today. Yesterday, he gave a speech for a Kamala Harris event, and he gave some history about how Reconstruction, right after the Civil War, how it ended. He said it was essentially an 8-7 vote. Mm-hmm. One vote ended the efforts to restore our country after the Civil War and to afford Black people the right, all the rights and privileges afforded under the Constitution. One vote ended all of that, 8-7. Wow. So if you want to tell me one vote doesn't matter, I'm telling you it took 65 years after that vote for us to get the full right to vote.
Right.
And so just be cognizant of that fact. So that's one thing I'd say. I know it's a long answer, but the second thing I'm going to say is this. I was talking to the AKAs at their annual policy conference on Tuesday. I was a keynote. And their theme was ready to soar to the polls. Right? I think I may be getting that right. But the point is, at the end of the day, she said they are pledging to take 4 or more in 24.
Well, that's pretty good.
To the polls, right?
I mean, we all with these colloquialisms. So, that's like when Clyburn was here on the show with us. He said that Project 2025 was Jim Crow 2.0.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. He said that yesterday too.
I figured he probably did. Yeah. Because exactly. we told him that we were going to keep that going.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and keep that going, not just in Michigan, but also in Nevada.
Yeah.
Well, wait, let me make sure I'm saying it right.
You said it wrong, but I was going to upcharge you. I was going to charge you when it was over.
But, we're trying to keep that going because I think the main thing is we want to keep her in the midst of everybody's conversations that she is the better between the two.
Absolutely.
And that's what we have to keep doing.
Yeah.
And I know, Letitia, in terms of with women, we got to get women to come out and vote.
That's right.
But we got to get women to encourage their men to get out and take their souls to the polls as well.
I agree. But I'm going to say this. I'm talking to the Black men right now. Mm-hmm. You need to encourage yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what the song says. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to encourage yourself.
Encourage yourself, right?
And right now is one of those times. Why y'all playing? there's no need for, we don't have the ability to sit on the sideline here and allow a person who has promised us he's going to be a dictator on day one. That's what he said.
Yeah. He
right?
told you.
That's what he said. He said he's going to be a dictator on day one. The U.S. Supreme Court has given him essentially carte blanche immunity to do anything he wants to do, to go after anybody who was not on his team, right? You cannot sit on the sideline and allow that to happen. He wants to give, speaking of immunity, full immunity to police officers, right? Not qualified immunity. You've heard that phrase before. He wants to give full immunity. After you see what continues to happen to black men in our country at the hands, and I'm law enforcement. I got a badge on me and a nice one in my back pocket. But I understand what happens between law enforcement oftentimes and the black community. And so you got to understand what the options are here, and you have to encourage yourself not to allow, frankly, not only you, but your children and your grandchildren not to be subjected to a person who's going to be a tyrant and violate your rights, your liberties, and your freedoms. And the alternative is clear in this instance, and it's Kamala Harris.
So you heard the other day that he just got the endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts when you heard about that?
You know, it hurts me a little bit because he also got the endorsement from the largest police organization, the union in Las Vegas. That's a problem, right? Because this man, as you recall, also instigated an insurrection that led to cops being killed. And so how can these law enforcement officers, how can they bring themselves to support someone that doesn't really support them, right? And at the end of the day, we have to take that with a grain of salt and understand that that's all the reason why we have to encourage ourselves on this and not be dissuaded by these folks who are buying into this con artist. And that's the best that I can say about it.
Well, you know, we have to wrap up, and we know you have other stops that you have to make, but we definitely appreciate you coming and supporting us here at WHPR TV 33, Watkins Broadcasting. Anytime that you are here in this state of Michigan,
yes, sir,
we have an extended invitation to you to come back.
Come back and join us.
Join us again, you know, at the station as well. But is there anything in closing? Is there anything else, Attorney General Ford, that you'd like to say to the residents here in the great state of Michigan?
Listen, just let me close by saying this. You hear a lot of people, use the word progressive like it's a bad word. Mm-hmm. But I want you to remember something. The opposite of progressive is regressive. Mm-hmm. The opposite of going forward is going backwards.
That's true.
And that's people are trying to do that right now, take us backwards. Don't take my word for it. You have a Supreme Court that just took us backwards 50 years in the women's reproductive rights.
Right.
You have folks who are taking us back pre-Civil Rights Act on voting issues. You got people who are trying to rewrite history books to remove the actual truth about Black history. They're trying to take you backwards. Don't let it happen. As Kamala Harris continues to say, we're not going back.
We're not going back.
Not going back.
We're not going back.
And you at the helm, Nevadans are not going back as well.
Love it.
Thank you again for being on Truth to Power.
Enjoyed it thoroughly. Thank you.
Enjoyed you. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we will be back shortly with our special guest host, and that is Ms. Letitia Sharp. Thank you again to Attorney General Ford for being our special guest today.
Thank you.
Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu. Feel good about your future with tuition-free programs at Wayne County Community College District. Whether you want to be in healthcare, computer science, the culinary arts, digital media, or robotics and automation for the next generation of vehicles, WCCCD has you covered. A full range of programs to achieve your goals, fit your schedule, and give you all the support you need to be successful. All of it tuition-free. Now there's something to feel good about. Register today at wcccd.edu.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabria, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in a home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
All media platforms are engaged. Copy. Get ready to launch your show or product. Periscope ready. We're 5x5 ready to launch. Copy that. Trend worldwide across all major platforms.
Ignition. 3, 2, 1.
The world is waiting. Watkins Broadcasting. More than just TV. TV 33 is moving to WHPS TV channel 15.2. Make sure to rescan the channels on your TV. Then go to WHPS channel 15.2 to pick up TV 33 and all of your favorite shows. The move is on, and we want you to move with us to WHPS channel 15.2.
And welcome back to Truth to Power. And we have just concluded our segment with Attorney General of the great state of Nevada, Mr. Aaron Ford. And now we are going to just pretty much like talk a little bit more about what we were talking about in the first half an hour with my special guest host, Ms. Letitia Sharp. Well, Letitia, let's just kind of look at the debate, and there's a lot of conversation as to whether or not if the former president, 45, may debate a second time with Vice President Harris. What's your thoughts?
You know, I honestly don't think that he will. I think that he is good at distracting folks. I mean, like right after the debate, he started saying immediately how he won by all these crazy numbers, and the numbers hadn't even really came out yet. I don't think that he's going to. I honestly think that it's a distraction. If I were to give some advice on it, I think I would. I think that Vice President Harris, I think that she should just continue to go out like she's doing. She's doing a great job with the rallies and going to the swing states and talking to the voters. And honestly, I don't think she should spend any more time debating this foolery. You know, the president is about business. You know, we have a lot of important things. People are, these are critical times in our country right now. We got important issues on that people are dealing with. I would just say, let her continue to go out and do the wonderful work she's doing, to touch with those folks, real people. That debate was more like it didn't, to me, I think she would just do much better just go and talk to the people directly. I just think that it's wasteful of time. I would have rather see her at a rally or see her, talking boots on the ground, actually talking to the voters. And I think that's what's going to get her across. I wouldn't waste any more time with him at all.
Well, and that's something I think a lot of people are wondering, which Donald Trump showed up.
Right.
And that was a question that I think a lot of people had before the debate, as to which one was going to show up. The one that was looking more so to talk facts or to talk about issues, as opposed to the one that was looking being the consummate performer.
Right.
And I think he performed that day, and the millions and millions of people that witnessed his performance. The scorecard was kind of interesting in terms of some people thought that he did a great job, and some people thought that he just looked absolute foolish,
Well, I think that, and I guess I'm going to say this as being an African-American woman, it's really sad that you put that performance on the side of our vice president, and he actually gets any kind of accolades about his performance. She was very professional. She walked in, she walked over to him, and she reached out her hand, and she greeted him in a very professional way. You're at a debate. You're here to talk about a presidential seat. That's the highest office in the land. And right out the gate, he starts talking crazy. And so I think African American women always have to do more at presenting than the norm. And that's just a given. Because she did an absolutely wonderful job. So how he got to even be close to her in performance is just, I think, the fact that she's who she is and how she looks. And that's the truth.
Well, it was so interesting because there was a lot of people that were upset with him because he never once called her by name. And then even she kept saying over and over again during the closing, minutes of the debate, I am Kamala Harris. I'm not the president. And she made sure to let him know, speak to me, not speak about the president.
Right.
And the other thing that it was interesting to me too was that, he kept calling David Muir David, but I don't recall one time that he addressed the female moderator during the debate.
That's because there's no respect for her. He has no respect for African American women, especially African American women who are in power. He has absolutely no respect. He can say Kamala. She had her two nieces at the DNC explaining how to pronounce her name, Kamala. I mean, once someone tells you, my name is Letitia, and once I tell you my name is Letitia, and you deliberately call me something else, who's the fool? I mean, you want to be president, you can't pronounce. You have these two little girls telling you it's Kamala. What more do you need than that, other than just be disrespectful, rude, and that's the way of degrading her. I don't have to acknowledge you by your name. I don't have to acknowledge anything you've ever done, and you're beneath me. That's because that's how he looks at that. And so, I wouldn't be interested in seeing another debate. I think let a fool be a fool. I would continue to go out and do what she's doing. And I would say to the voters, if I had to say to people, hey, if you want Donald Trump, you're going to get 4 years, but the remath of that 4 years is going to be far more than 4 years. You give him 4 years in that office, you're going to suffer much more than the 4 years, because the aftermath is going to be, astronomical.
Well, it's so interesting just listening to some of the things that they were saying after the debate, that she had a earpiece.
Mm-hmm. Oh God.
That was, looked like it could have been one of her earrings, that was pretty much like prompting her on what to say and, what not to say during the debate. And it's like folks were just grasping at straws, trying to find something to take away from her outstanding commentary that she was saying as it pertained to the misinformation that he was disseminating out. And, you couldn't give her credit that these are things that came on her own volition, not from something that somebody was telling her through an earpiece as to how to respond back to the fact checking that was going on, throughout the debate.
This is another example of the disrespect. The woman is clearly intelligent. I mean, she has a resume that shows she's intelligent. You don't land in all these seats by being, dumb.
Mm-hmm.
So she has this extraordinary resume, and in his mind, she can't be smart. So she needs someone to have earbuds or whatever it is in her ears. So maybe they should have had some in his. Maybe that would have helped. But I just think this grasping for straws, grasping for some way of saying that she's just not qualified. And you can't not qualify someone just because they're smarter than you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you look at that, and I was talking to my mom and my family about the debate in itself. If we really sat our kids down and said, hey, let's look at this debate and find out about the policies for each president. Did you get that? Did you get anything that Donald Trump could possibly say, you know what, he said a policy on this, or he said a policy on that? I got nothing from him. Not one thing. So, and I clearly was like saying, is there something? But there was absolutely nothing. And the craziest thing, and our guest talked about this earlier. I mean, you're on national television. Millions of people are watching across the world. And you actually say out your mouth that you heard people eating dogs and cats. And you heard this, and the moderator saying, well, we fact checked this. This is not true. And you basically saying, oh, it doesn't matter. I got this from somebody else. From what? Somebody wrote it on a napkin or something? I mean, you want to be president of the United States. Really? So, I mean, to hear something like that, if we wanted our kids to hear it or to watch this debate to get some information, I think I would have turned it off if I had small kids, because they might think that are people really eating that dogs and cats? Because the president, these two, this is here in this debate, this conversation. So some people could be, naive enough to think that it's really happening.
Well, that's the same thing. Just like I think we probably had our most egregious statements that people have been repeating over and over again that came from former President Trump's mouth. And that first one is everybody was echoing over and over again about the comment when he made about possibly injecting bleach into your bloodstream to go and eradicate the COVID virus. And I mean, so many people, social media had a field day with that part. And then the second part was about the Haitians that were eating the dogs and the cats in Springfield, Ohio. And, I looked at Facebook the next day, and everybody was posting pictures of people and mocking dogs that actually had guerrilla warfare gear on, saying, don't even think it, to come at them and try and eat them, but there's so many different things that he said that really made people just really kind of wonder, are you crazy to say those things?
Right.
But I think the other part that really got me too, Letitia, was that when he made the statement and said about the president of the Taliban and how he would go and send the president a picture of his home. And in essence, a lot of people I talked to said he was sounding real gangster when he said that, in essence saying, hey, we know where you live. Mm-hmm. So anytime we want to take you out, we can always get you because we do know where you live at.
And is that the temperament of who we would want in the White House? Is that the person that we would want, our to make decisions at that level for us? Someone who's unhinged, someone who has, I clearly think he probably has some mental illness, in a sense that I think he really believes the things that he says. Sometimes people say things and they don't believe it. They're saying it for a joke, or they're saying it just to be part of a conversation. I think he honestly believes the things that he says, and that's really, really scary.
It is.
That's really scary. And I'm going to say this on behalf of women. Our guest spoke to the men, but I'm going to take this opportunity to speak to the women. If for no other reason you don't go to the polls to vote and encourage your children, your husbands, brothers, whoever, any man in your life to go to the poll, go for yourself, because the reproductive rights that are on the table right now, women need to all stand together. That's clear. He said he basically told you what he thought about you and your body and your rights. You asked our guest what was the most craziest, one of the craziest things he said is that somebody said, oh, they're killing babies after they're born. Nobody ever said that. Nobody believes that. And nobody would ever support that. There's no woman ever that I've known that would say that was part of the reproductive act or issue, was about killing the child after it was born. That's called murder. Right. Now, if you have a president that's saying that that's even on the table, that's scary. And this man does not have a track record of supporting women at all or respecting women at all. Even in his own personal life, he doesn't. So we cannot have someone in the White House that clearly does not respect women, our bodies, our rights. Our Black women don't respect us at all. I'm going to keep saying it. We got to get him to the polls, because people cannot just assume that she's the smartest person. She's got, she has a good track going and everybody's out, rallies and everything. But those people that are showing up at the rallies, they need to get more people to get to the polls and ask them. And our Black women and Black men, we need to make sure that we are going to suffer the most. We're going to suffer the most if she is not our next president.
You're absolutely correct. Well, in the few minutes that we have left, everybody listens to the opening song and the closing song that's played on Truth to Power. Mm-hmm. And we are totally indebted to you, indebted to your sister, indebted to the music group known as The Music Forever.
TMF, yes. And
they were formerly members of
Maze.
Mm-hmm. And we just recently lost the lead singer for the group.
Yes.
Maze. And that happened to be Frankie Beverly.
Yes.
I know we were going to talk about this on the show the other day, but now that you're here, definitely want to express your thoughts about the transition of Mr. Frankie Beverly and how his music impacted not just you, your sister, Rome, and other members of the group Maze, or now TMF, but the world that listened to him for all these decades.
Well, I'm just going to say, it's a great loss to everyone who knew Mr. Beverly. I did know him. I knew him personally. And he was just a man who loved music. He loved his fans and his family. And he made everybody feel that way. You were part of his family. So we are going to miss him greatly. I think the music industry is going to miss him. It's just a terrible loss. But his music is no one will ever be able to replace what he has given us. So for that, we're lucky. To Rome, who is now the only surviving original member of Maze, I want to say to him, he has taken this very, very sad, hard, and along with the family and the other band members. They were with him, 10, 20 years as well. Rome was with him for 50 years. And you're not with someone 50 years and not be family or not be connected to them. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers, as well as my sister Nell.
What is Rome's full name? Give his full name.
His name is Rome Lowry.
Okay.
Yeah, so he goes by Rome, and that's what everybody knows him at. He started with the band when they first got started. And actually, the beginning of this segment is Choices, and Rome wrote that song he wrote the lyrics to that song. I believe the lead singer is Chris Walker, but Rome wrote the song. And if you listen to it, and it's on their soundtrack, the TMF, it's on their, not soundtrack, it's on their first album. And if you listen to the lyrics of the song, it talks about we all have choices in everything we do. And whatever choice we make, that's the choice we have to live with. So we need to be careful about how we make our choices. And that's what we were talking about with this election. You know, you have a choice. You go to the polls, you don't. You vote for Kamala, you vote for Donald. You complain about it or you don't complain about it. You know, whatever your choice is yours, but you're going to have to live with it. And that's a deep song. So I think at the beginning of the program, we have the musical part of it, but I really encourage folks to listen to the whole album, and it's a good one. But that particular one, Rome did write, and there's a lot. They're going to be. Please go to their website. I'm gonna give them a shout out. The Music Forever TMF. They are getting booked a lot around the country, so they'll be doing a lot of gigs around. And there's going to be I think there's like they're doing Mr. Beverly's birthday was December 6th, and they're doing a celebration on his birthday.
So were there other songs, just out of curiosity, were there other songs that Rome wrote for Maze?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a yes or a no. I'm sure he was definitely involved. I'm not sure I couldn't tell you which songs.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, Rome, I'm sorry if I didn't know that.
We're not going to hold it against the Rome.
Yeah,
so,
I'll bring it up next time. Right.
So, Rome, when she comes back, she'll be able to go and give a whole repertoire of all of the songs that you co-wrote or that you wrote for Frankie Beverly.
And maybe we could get Rome on the call, so maybe we could get him here.
Then no better than having the person actually come on and talk about the songs that he co-wrote and that he wrote, for Frankie Beverly and Maze.
As well as TMF. They're always ready to come. So, yeah.
Well, the thing is that I'm just curious, too, that looking at Frankie Beverly in the decades that he touched, and the one thing that I talked about on a previous show was that people sung Frankie Beverly songs for decades. I mean, I went to a concert. Matter of fact, it was the Taste of Chicago. And when I was there, he would go, and he was the consummate performer when he would take that microphone and hold it out into the audience. And it's like he could almost take a break, take a sip of water or sit down on a stool and kind of rest, because the audience just took over at that point. And, and he would just keep the mic held out to the audience and let them continue to sing the next verse or, the refrain or whatever the case may be. And they could almost end the song, and he just sit back and just bob his head or weave and, and just kind of snap his fingers along with them. Mm-hmm. But the part that really got me was it wasn't just the seniors in the audience.
Right.
It was kids that were like teenagers that were singing, and they knew the lyrics by heart. And I mean, his music is just so melodic. And I know we talked about this, Tisha, on a previous show that we did, talking about entertainers. Mm-hmm. And I know about, they were originally called Raw Soul. Mm-hmm. And I know that Marvin Gaye had an impact when it came down to them, getting them to change the name from Raw Soul to Maze, and how a lot of people look at it like Frankie Beverly and Maze, and then some people say Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
His Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
And, it just depends on who you may say, just like when our guest we had on the show, was saying about it's how you enunciate it, and how you verbalize it, and looking at Nevada.
Right.
Potato, and that kind of thing. But please keep us abreast of any arrangements that, the Beverly family has, so that I know that there's a lot of people that would like to pay tribute. And I know one of the things that I was reading something on the show the other day was that they were hoping that, a lot of their, friends, a lot of their fans would go and pretty much like let people know that, hey, let them grieve in their own way.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that they did ask, is that right now this is a big loss for everyone that was close around him and even beyond. So just keep the family in prayer. But I think the best way to remember someone, I heard today, is to just don't forget their name. Don't forget what they've put into. So I say, I implore everybody, play a whole bunch of Frankie Beverly songs. That's what I did last week, just to honor him, and it just warmed my heart. So
I was we were doing door hanging yesterday, and one of the ladies came in. I'll give her a shout out, Aletha. She came in and she was like wearing a baseball cap. And I looked at her and I'm like, I never saw you really dressed like this. And she said, this is in remembrance of Frankie Beverly.
So remembrance of Frankie Beverly, I'm going to say this is my favorite song. Everybody says before I let go, but my favorite song is We Are One. And I think that's what he would want us to be at this time in life, all of us, is to remember we are one.
Well, I guess thank you to Henry Tyler. Thank you for letting us know how we are one and how we need to go, and we need to segue off of this performance today for Truth to Power. We have been joined by the illustrious Letitia Sharp, and we thank you for coming on the show with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have been also joined by our esteemed Attorney General for the phenomenal state of Nevada, and that's Attorney General, right? We got to make sure we say it right.
Nevada. Mm-hmm.
But that was the Attorney General, and his name was Mr. Aaron Ford.
Yes.
But thank you to Attorney General Ford for being on the show with Truth to Power.
Thank you, sir.
This has been a special edition of Truth to Power. Your host, Darwin Griffin, and we will look forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Remember your choices.
And remember the choices. TMF, having
Bye-bye.
those choices. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.